Hi guys, welcome to my lockdown masterclass. Hope you're all doing well and surviving this time. So my name is Mia Cilliers. I'm a director and producer from Cape Town, and I work mostly in documentary and or non-fiction content. So I think today I'll chat a bit to you guys about firstly, just a bit of a sense of my approach to filmmaking and what I've learned over the years. And then I'll talk to you a bit about my own career trajectory, because I know you're all graduating soon and it can be really hard to figure out, what's next and, your place in the film industry and how to navigate it. So in terms of, and I'll speak specifically about documentary, I think. In terms of developing your style and I guess just your vibe, it can sometimes be a hard thing to pin down. And people often say, but what is your approach? What is your style? And you're like, well, I don't really know what it is or how to describe it. But it's actually something that comes very naturally from who you are and what you like, and just generally your approach to the world and your approach to storytelling. So I think that's sort of something to kind of think about, in a sense of it just maybe just being inherent to who you are, and you don't have to force yourself to be a Wes Anderson or a Scorsese or, be like someone else. Just find it naturally within yourself. And, in terms of directing, because that's my focus, it's also something it's really something we learn to do. Or there's not a way of learning, these are the steps to follow. I must do this, and then I must do this, and then I must do that, and then I'll make a great film. It really is very much an instinctive process. You will know what feels right and what feels true to the story you're telling. And I think that's something that's really important to know and to remember. And a lot of people have told me this too. When I was sort of wondering, but how do I do this? How do I approach this? I don't really know what I'm doing. And a lot of it is really just about being confident, even if you have to fake it, taking ownership of a project, and really in the moment when you're filming, it's about just making decisions. And that's sort of often the most important. It's like I said, the rest is kind of in you, and you'll just know, your gut will tell you what's the right approach. And I think that approach is probably quite different for fiction and non-fiction stories. In documentary, you're often in a real life situation, you can't control it. But what you need to get out of that situation is very much looking at your bigger goal, looking at the themes of your film. Where does this moment fit into a film? And shooting with your narrative structure and your edit in mind, and thinking, is this relevant? How would this work? So it's really having a big picture in your mind all the time, and in that moment going, we need this, we don't need this, we need this, we don't need this. And even I think in film, we're all going to have people we admire, and you might want to emulate certain filmmakers and I guess kind of copy paste their style. But at the end of the day, even if you try and do that, it'll still always be your own, and it'll have your own stamp. Yeah. And then if I think of just practically in terms of making documentaries, and this was also something, when you're studying, you're thinking, okay, but can't someone just teach me what I do first and what I do second? Like, how does it work? There's actually no standard way of making documentaries. If you look at like online talks with filmmakers where they speak about their films, you'll realize that every person, and these are some of the biggest filmmakers, making some of the biggest and most successful documentaries, all went into it in a different way. So again, there is no right or wrong. It's very much the story will guide you. It's, again, quite instinctive where you think you should start. And a lot of it, and this is also my advice because I've started and stopped many doc projects. Spend time doing research, meeting with people, really finding where is that story? Is there a story even? I think we should, at the end of the day, we're making a product, right? And you should be really discerning when choosing a topic because you're making something that you're asking people to watch and you're demanding their time. And they must choose your film over hundreds of other films. So, really think, where is the story? Is this really a worthwhile story to tell? And that is mostly going to be driven by your character or characters. And if you don't have a strong character, the whole thing might fall flat. It might be a brilliant concept. But yeah, that's really where it starts. And then from your character, you'll see the themes will emerge and the purpose of the film will emerge. But really choose wisely and think. And often if you're doing a feature doc or a long form doc, it's something you might spend months working on or even years. So really make sure that this is a topic you feel strongly about and want to invest in. So it also took me a while to figure out what my style was. But I think to me in particular, when I look at situations or scenarios that I might want to explore more or delve into, I always like to find a kind of humor or an irony in moments and in stories. So, and even especially with serious content, humor can often elevate the seriousness and actually kind of make it a bit more tragic. So this juxtaposition, that really interests me, and things can really be a bit out of place if you juxtapose scenarios, like a really tragic moment with something oddly out of place and humorous, can often jolt you a lot more on film. And then I must say also for me, and this also takes a long time to get there, but documentary filmmaking can be a very lonely business. I'm sure you guys have had to work on your own projects, and I'm sure you have classmates who help you out, but at the end of the day, it's your project and you're responsible for it, and nobody's really holding your hand. And it can be very daunting and quite depressing. So if you can, find a team of people who really think like you, who really have the same vision, who really becomes like, they understand your style and your approach, and you work well together. You can bounce ideas off each other. It can just be somebody you admire, another filmmaker. It can be somebody whose style you wish to emulate, who could give you advice. But I think often having like a core team that you like to work with, an editor or a cine, or if you're shooting yourself, maybe just sort of a friend to bounce something off, or a producer. I think that really, really helps a lot. So I am, at the moment, we've got a small production company called Real Epics, and we're based in town. And we've really gone sort of full steam as a fully fledged company this year only. And it's me and my business partner, Jackie. And we've got Roxanne, who's also in the company, and she's our editor, and she shoots, and she's also a bit of an all-rounder. And to me, the best part it's just a small group of us, but we're very like-minded. We share interests, we share visions for projects. Our aesthetics kind of match up. And that is so valuable. To me, I would rather be working with a great team of people every day on projects I'm less interested in than be working on the best films with like not great crew. So yeah, I think that to me that's probably been one of the most significant things of really feeling confident and secure in this industry, is having a group of people who feel this is my team. But I will add to that that the reality of that is that it took us 5 years to get here. In this time, we were all sort of doing respective jobs and freelancing and doing things separately, sometimes coming together on projects under Real Epics. Really, it took a long time for us to get enough industry experience and enough clout and clients to go ahead to really sort of all quit our jobs and just do this full time. So I'll give you a bit of an overview about my kind of career trajectory just to show you how it all happened and how we got here today. Because I mean, like I said, it's daunting. You guys are completing your studies. I'm sure you're going, like, what's next? I think it took me a very long time to understand the local industry. Who's out there, who's doing what are the jobs, what are the opportunities, how do you work in documentary, how do you work in TV, how do you work on film sets? There's a lot of commercials, there are a lot of options to go into, and all of these sort of spheres of filmmaking are very much like silos. Like the commercials people know each other, the doc people know each other, the feature people know each other. So it's hard to always know where you can fit in. And another thing that actually takes a lot of time to figure out, but is also important, especially in documentary, is understanding the global sort of playing field for films. Where do films travel to? Who buys them? Which are the big festivals? I mean, and that also takes forever to really understand. And often local documentaries do better abroad than they do here. So that's a really important thing to know how to navigate. And together with that, a lot of funding comes from international funders. So to understand that playing field is key. My background, I started with a BA at Stellenbosch University and then did an honours in journalism. And then I spent some years traveling and then eventually started my master's at UCT in documentary arts because I knew I wanted to transition from journalism to film. And I spent quite a number of years doing my master's. At the same time I went on student exchanges to UCLA and to Berlin. And I was also working at the university, and that's sort of where I started producing kind of on a small scale, directing, making content for the university, mostly in-house stuff. So I was about 28 before I really started working full-time in the industry. And to be honest, I don't think it's an easy industry for young people. No one takes you seriously until you've got a good number of years of experience. Things are competitive. Things don't happen overnight, And I think we all go through this, you're like, I have my degree now. I've just learned how to be a director or a cinematographer or an editor. I mean, I know everything, so I'm sure everybody's going to want to hire me. But from there, you realize, actually, there's a lot to learn. And nobody walks out of film school directing the next big commercial. You really got to pay your dues, start from the bottom, work your way up. And you can move fast if you're hungry to learn and you're dedicated. There's no reason not to. But my next step then after graduating was to really just go, okay, let me just do short stints with production companies. I think the longest I worked at one was about 5 months. But I went there hungry to work and to learn and just to soak things up because I'd never been in these environments. It's quite a jump from university to suddenly walk into a big media company. There's a lot of hierarchy, which is also important to navigate and not be, not say things that are out of place, or, just accept the fact that you're a junior. But what I did enjoy about those jobs is that you're working from project to project. So you do get variety. And each project you learn something new. You're working with so when I started, I was mostly doing work which a lot of women end up doing, production management work, production coordinator, researching for shows. And I did a lot of it, but actually it taught me a lot. Gave me a much better sense of the finances of shows and how to manage budgets and what's doable and what's not. It really gives you an overall feel of all the departments and divisions and how people slot in, because you're working across the board. And you know what? It was pretty structured work. It paid well, and I got to travel with shows. And I worked in both local reality shows, international shows that were incoming, that were just sort of using South Africa as a backdrop. And then also local shows that were kind of documentary style shows, or even makeover shows, cooking shows. So there's a lot of stuff that you think, oh, so I'm not directing the next big thing, but it's just what it is. It doesn't happen overnight. And the benefits of this is now you're working on sets with experienced directors. You see how experienced people operate. You're seeing how a director would collaborate with a DOP and how that relationship works. And then when you're on international shows, you get a sense of how big a crews work and how, the hierarchy on those shows and all the various roles. And you know what? I think when we're studying, there's also there's got a limit to what you learn. I think it's mostly sort of focusing on directing or camera work or editing. But actually, if you spend time on sets, you might find, wow, I actually love art direction. This is something I might want to pursue. I was studying and did a lot of editing work, so I thought I was really into editing, and then realized, actually, no, I prefer to be on set. So just to come back, after years of this kind of work, we've now only been able to go, I've been able to go, oh, okay, I understand reality TV market, I understand this now. Let's start coming up with our own ideas. We know what the market's asking for. Let's pitch ideas to TV channels, and then that's how you start building relationships. So I think that's the thing. We can't, you can't jump the gun. It is what it is, and it does take time. That said, another big depressing but real element of the industry is that you can't really get anywhere without, say as a director, without creating content and creating projects on the side that are probably going to be unpaid. I spend a lot, I would work for companies or freelance, and then I would, after that, live off that money to spend time working on passion projects. And sadly, that is sort of the reality in this country. I mean, we as a company currently have 3 shows on Showmax, which were all commissioned. And we made them all with no money, or pulling favors, asking people to help out. And 2 of them, so the documentaries are 6 to 6 and Finding Freedom. And there's also a web series called The White Folks that's on there. And both our documentaries won SAFTAs, actually. And so they really did very well, but they were made with no money. And at the end of the day, what they are to you as an individual, it's almost like a calling card. It's a way of saying, this is my track record, this is what I've made. With that, because you've made some films, you can now go to the NFF and ask for funding based off your track record. You can get into things like the Durban Talents or other, industry events or opportunities. But the reality is you need to make it first. And this is and everybody in the industry goes through this, it's one of those very bizarre things that we all have to kind of deal with. And then, so I guess, and then the other thing, that I would add to that is that the thing about this industry, and because it's in South Africa, it is small, it's a lot about relationships. And you'd find the people who are successful are not necessarily the best. It's people who are well connected and who hustle. So really, if you leave film school this year, your friend might get a job at a production company, and another job opens up. Like, really suggest each other for jobs, help each other out. That networking is so crucial, which is, it's wonderful, but it's also quite sad that an industry functions on who you know and not what your talents are. And this is also particularly difficult or more of an issue for women and people of color to really get a foot in the door in the industry. And you have to work double as hard to prove yourself. And to be very blunt, I've worked with a lot of young people coming out of varsity, and getting the job is not your achievement. When you get in there, you need to prove yourself. Be curious. Don't be shy to ask. People are super happy to teach you on the job. You ask a lot of questions. Understand how things work. Upskill yourself. There's a lot of also just tutorials and things online to learn. And and another thing I would say, when you start in the industry, really be communicative. Because I've worked with people who they don't show up, or they don't meet a deadline. And, everybody's understandable. Like, we can all understand that. But if you just explain to me why, I'll be fine with it. But it's just about being communicative. Don't be shy about things. If it's something personal going on, that's all fine. But it'll irritate someone more if you don't say anything. And when someone asks you to do it immediately. Don't, because you're sending a message. You're sending a message saying, I'm proactive. I'm not going to make you wait. When you ask me to do something, I hustle. I can do this. And then the other thing is go to networking events. Even if you're junior and you feel a bit shy about it, people will remember your face. If you ask a question in the audience, people see you. We have encounters every year, which is a great festival, and there's loads of things around encounters to attend. There's the Silver Skerm Feast in Camps Bay every year, which also you can buy tickets and you can watch a lot of movies there, and it's good to watch local content. So, I think just, know that you're going to go out there and it's going to be hard, and very few people make it quickly, and be prepared to work hard. But all in all, the people who stick it out are the ones who make it. And, don't lose sight of it. It is a wonderful industry. We work on incredible projects. We get to go places. We get to meet people we never would have met. So you can really enrich your life in this industry. So don't give up, but just put it all in and just go for it. Another thing, finally, I would just add is that for all the female filmmakers, I would suggest you all join SWIFT, which is an organization which is Sisters Working in Film and Television. And it's only for women filmmakers, and it's a really supportive group, and we all we have almost like a WhatsApp group, and everyone's sort of asking for advice and recommending jobs in it. So if you can join, it really is great because there's a support system. So yes. Okay, guys, thanks for listening to my little overview of the industry, and best of luck to all of you. Bye.